And we are live.
Nice. Freya's in the call with me too, so hopefully she's barking less today.
Yeah, last time we could hear her, but maybe it was because she was away. So now it seems like she's busy.
I gave her a stick. I've been bribing her with sticks, so hopefully she doesn't get fat from them. But she's been good.
So it's not an AI background.
No, it's real.
Actually happening.
I know.
Amazing.
Do we have anyone yet? No.
I think people will, be starting to join on the different platforms.
Nice. How are you seeing that?
There is a counter, but it's only connected to one of the channels, so we don't have a global one.
Nice.
There you go. Hello, good to see you. I think we are. Jeff here. We are happy to have you. Always logging in. Also curious to have all your questions. I remember there was a couple input shared in the community forum about things to explore. I'll have to look again.
Yeah, we're excited to get into
them.
I think Guillaume has some good things prepared for today.
I have a few things, and I think we'll also be creating live and maybe taking live some concepts, some use cases, and we can explore them live. So also curious to get the inputs.
We will have it this afternoon. Will we have it this afternoon?
Sorry, say again.
Will we have the video this afternoon?
I think it will be automatically available whenever it's over. It directly is available on YouTube and LinkedIn.
Nice.
Hello.
Okay. Hello, Safwan. Hello, everyone. I think also if in case anyone has any requests or anything that they want to see us build, feel free to just throw it in the comments.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I found the post on the community showing a few requests. Yeah, how to make charts interactive.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Guidance on improving prompts.
Also a good one.
Gantt charts. Yeah, there was a couple ideas. Hopefully we'll go through some interesting business use case, also maybe some more visual fun use cases. I know you explored that quite a bit.
I love the visual parts. I like to see how far I can get these, how much I can make them Shiran apps and not just Softr apps. And there's a lot of room and flexibility, I think, more than people realize.
Cool. Yeah, I think we can get started now. The counter is working, so we're live on both platforms. Maybe Shiran, do you want to introduce a bit the topic? Softr has been known to be in the no-code space for many years now. Now we hear about Vibe-Coding. What does it mean, and what does it mean for Softr overall? What changes, what doesn't change, and curious to have your thoughts on that.
Let's dive in because it's a great topic. So, Softr has been in the no-code space for a while, and for those of you who are, have been no-code builders, you probably know that some of the best aspects of building with no-code tools is just the built-in support that's given to you through those platforms. So I think one challenge that has always, one of the benefits of the no-code platforms, especially for myself over the past years, is that if you are less technical or if you're not really an engineer, there's this platform and this foundation that kind of guides you through what, helps make it possible for you to be able to do these things without coding, but also without necessarily having the engineering background to understand how to build these things. And so this has been a really strong foundation, but also now in the past couple of years, with AI and vibe coding kind of blowing up, expectations have really changed. And now everyone, I think in a few different areas, everyone wants their app today, right now, this very second, and they want it to look exactly how they want it. And so there have been a lot of vibe coding tools in the space, and they allow you to generate incredibly amazing, beautiful things. I think for many people who haven't been in no code, this has kind of been their entry point, and they're very excited. But I think for those of us who have been in the no code space and have built apps or built automations, we understand that the generation is kind of just that, the UI is just the surface level piece. It's not the entire app, and there's a lot more to it. And oftentimes what we're seeing is that when they're getting past that first layer, to actually be able to take that app, to put it into production, to be able to scale it with real users, to be able to actually make this a real application that they can trust their data with, the AI is just not enough to get you there. And so where we really see Softr now and in the future is kind of that intersection between no code and AI, which is basically taking this speed and freedom that comes with being able to build with vibe coding and AI, and being able to combine that with the security, the reliability, and infrastructure of no code. And we think that that combination is super powerful. And it means that not only are you building things that are really cool, but you're also building them and you're able to actually use them in the real world. And I think that's what's really important.
It's interesting what you said about AI. Right now, some AI tools are really good at creating an interface. Actually, the reality of tools that companies are using are mostly data founded. It's a spreadsheet usually in a company. When you want to actually track something, there's this common practice of creating yet another spreadsheet. Spreadsheet is pure data, and it's actually what you have to track and to work on is this data, to share it, to maybe edit it, to interact with it. So yeah, it cannot be only an interface, only a UI, but you have to bridge the two together to have your a UI on top of the data that you actually are working with. So I don't know, tracking your vendors, tracking your inventory. This is data, and you need to create an app to, I don't know, maybe share it with externals who need to access, fill up some information, or have your team track their own projects, be assigned, etc. So it's really this combination of data and interface, but also logic and workflow. We now also, when we talk about AI, it's also these AI workflows that will maybe automatically enrich data, summarize things, classify, all the issues that you received, all the bug or the requests you get from your customers, maybe having AI tag them, etc. So it's really these three pillars of an app: the data, workflows, and interface that actually Softr brings together in one platform that's easy to use and to get started with, but also very robust and now flexible. So I hope we'll cover that flexibility part, but also the connection to the data and to the workflows. So the three pieces always work together.
Yeah. And one last thing I'll really add, I think, it's a time where everyone just wants to try every AI tool, every vibe coding tool imaginable. It's really exciting. I mean, even myself, I'm generally excited. It's a roller coaster ride. But I think at the end of the day, when you're in the working world, when you're, and we're, or in the AI world, and everyone is so competitive and the space is moving so fast, I think there's nothing more powerful than being able to build something, and not only to be able to show it and it looks good, but you can build something and it's empowering your entire team, your entire business to actually move faster. You're making real world impact. I think that just goes so far beyond just, that initial kind of magic that comes with generating something. So yeah, hopefully we can show you some really amazing things, because I think what we're doing with Softr is incredible. It's super powerful, and we're super excited about it.
Very cool. And maybe as we talk a lot about these business apps, can you just name a few typical business apps? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, okay, when we're thinking about business apps, we kind of group them into two different areas, maybe three in my mind. So I think the first is generally portals, where you're looking to share data externally. So you might have all of the data you're collecting for a specific system, but then I guess an agency is a good example. You have all of your projects in your project management database, but you obviously don't want to give clients access to everything, let alone even other client projects. You don't even want to give them access to everything that you are doing kind of behind the scenes working on their projects. So being able to build that portal on top of it allows you to only surface the information that's relevant to them, to allow them to make approvals and so on without them having to doing the emails, the back and forth. It's just a nightmare. And then with internal tools, this can be anything from like employee portals, ERPs, generally just different types of operational tools. I mean, at Softr, for instance, with our team, whenever we need something, whenever we need a tool, and it's like, there is nothing out there without you having to purchase a big platform, or maybe it's just an automation, but you're forced into another applications interface. Being able to just build these tools on the fly and then to kind of grow them into bigger systems or bigger tools is really incredible. But other types could be like inventory management, for instance, any type of like dashboarding, approvals, tracking, so on. And then I think the last piece, which I think now Softr really kind of nails with the release of databases and also workflows in the past year, is just the end-to-end operating system for your business or for your team. And I think one really good example that I can also give personally is we work with a lot of influencers and creators. So months ago, I didn't want to go in and look at any platforms for managing influencers or marketplaces. I just wanted to have a tool that we could use internally. And so it started off as like a simple CRM database, but then I was like, okay, but now we also want to allow influencers to be able to log in and actually we can share the deliverables with them and the resources. So it grew into more of an influencer management system with a portal, and now also tracking and dashboarding for, internals and stakeholders. So it's just now an end-to-end system for managing that entire life cycle of that process. And we can do the entire thing within Softr, which is incredible. So hopefully that answers the question.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. That's and I think we can start to, we'll do both like demonstrating some things we have already built, but also building some live. So if you have any wishes, any requests, we're happy to consider them. I have one. I can start with one that I've created a couple of weeks ago. I'll be sharing my screen. All right, should work. So we received actually a lot of requests about okay, how do you build maybe for, I don't know, a co-working or any company that wants to have a booking system for their meeting rooms or things like that. How do you do that? How to build such an app? How do you do it in Softr? Because it's actually in between, like some aspects of it are simple. You can list in a database all the rooms that you have available. So for example, what we display here is quite simple. This is a grid block because we're just displaying what I have in my database, the different rooms with some information, capacity, some other items. Now, how do you handle a booking system that allows you to select a time in a calendar to actually book that room, that will prevent you from booking it if it's already booked? And in the past, few years, this was quite complex to build because data-wise, you would need maybe to have one row per room per time slot that's available in a database, to then have a status to know if it's free or not. Because if there is no row there is no data in your database about, for example, oh, that room is free on Monday at 12, you cannot display this availability in an interface. And that's where I actually could, and we can maybe preview the app. That's where Vibe-Coding really helped me keep a database very simple. Because if I open one of these rooms, I see here a calendar, and I can go for, let's say, Monday, and okay, it's right here. And here I see the different availabilities. And this, I could bytecode it and basically tell that if there is no record in my database for such a booking, then it's free. So this is actually not a record, but it means there is an absence of a record in my database. So if I look into the data here for my bookings, I only have a couple bookings. And I told to the Vibe-Coding block that's handling this option to book, that whenever there is actually no booking for that time, then display it as an available time slots. And here you can simply, yeah.
So just because I'm sure this might be a question, how are you keeping it locked in on the times that you would actually be available during the day? So how are you capturing that window of time?
So you mean displaying here the fact that it starts at 8?
Yeah, are you doing this through the Vibe-Coding block, or are you doing it on the back end in the database? How are you controlling the actual time window?
Yeah, so there is 2 ways to think about that. If you want each room to have their own agenda, for example, one room can be booked from 8 a.m., but the other room can only be booked from 10, then I would recommend to store these rules in the database in a certain format that maybe says, okay, what time it starts and what time it ends, and maybe also some metadata about the types of booking, for example, 1 hour, 3 hour, but we could have others. In my case, I simplified and just declared to the Vibe-Coding block, hey, I need this to be like the bookings to be open from 8 a.m. to, I don't know, 6 p.m. So it's up to you to go granular. And if I request here one of those time slots, I see that it's automatically not available anymore. If I had booked 3 hours, it would of course book the 3 hours. But data-wise, what happens is that here everything is available, and unless there is in the database a record that says that there is a booking for this time. So here we just received our new booking. So by default, it's in pending status. It automatically captured the meeting room and respected the time slots that I have selected.
Very nice.
And yeah, again, this is the Vibe-Coding block here allowed me to avoid creating workarounds data-wise, because I know that somewhere, for example, adding records for each time slot, but then they had to delete them on a rolling basis because that was a lot of records in their database, create automation, etc. And just having this Vibe-Coding block and the option to just say, okay, if there is no record booking that room at a certain time, then it's free. So that was a game changer for such a use case that's super useful.
It is super useful. And maybe just also we have some comments on the side as well. I think, definitely back end and front end is really important with Softr. Most important thing often missed is how data is created from Duvernay. Yes, that I think we mentioned that during the last session as well, and that's actually also why I even called it out here. I think the Vibe-Coding block is very, very, very useful. But at the end of the day, the other thing to always keep in mind is, and also something that makes it truly incredible, is that it does connect directly to the to your database within Softr, and you're building on top of that. You're able to set filtering conditions and so on top of your database. But if your database is not set up correctly, that's typically where things often fail. So agreed. And that I think is one of the biggest learnings over the past few years of seeing so many users come in and build. And I think even something that, for instance, just Vibe-Coding or just AI doesn't help you solve. I think it's something that people should understand and learn for themselves, because if you don't actually understand how to structure a database, then it becomes really difficult to debug or to figure out what's going on when things actually break. So yeah, agreed, very important. And also Jaswina, hi Jaswina, mentioned that security, Vibe-Coding is great, but yes, it's very important to make sure that the app is secure and that there's no personal or company data shown somewhere publicly in the code. And I think this, I don't know how much time everyone else spends on Reddit. I try not to spend too much time, but the one thing I see on Reddit, which comes up a lot in the Vibe-Coding subreddits especially, which is actually my worst nightmare. I can't think of anything worse to me, which is like having secure data actually leaked. And when you're running an agency or you're running a service-based business, I mean, just leaking, one client's data could ruin you. I mean, it's a very serious thing. And so Once again, I think we said this last time, and I will say it again here. One of the biggest benefits of building in Softr is not only the security of your app, but the personal security emotionally and just like in general you feel, because you know that, you know, we're taking care of all of the like the hardest parts of building an application for you. And you can kind of have the freedom to build whatever you need, but you don't have to worry about all of the risks that often come with just purely vibe coding.
Yeah, it comes down to implementing the best practices that we make easily available within the app. So, for example, here this is my vibe coding blog that I've added. So it's a very simple app. I just have this homepage where we're showing the different rooms available, and then when you click open on one of them, if I show the action right here, it will open the detail of that room. In a model. That's why we're actually not really leaving the homepage. And we have first a record detail block that shows a bit of information about that room, and just below this room booking system. And I could actually connect that room booking system directly to my data source. So picking the database and the table. So that one was for the bookings. And I could also add conditional filters telling that we were only showing, like only connecting to the data related to this room. And this is all done natively, and it has this CRUD capacities, so creating data, updating it, deleting it. And we can even see the type of actions that are enabled for this block. So there is no black box here about, maybe like, yeah, I think when you vibe code and let AI code 100% of your app, you don't know much about how things actually work, and you can just rely on a few signals like, oh yeah, it seems to work because it added something here. Here you can have the guarantee that it's just acting on the status, the room, the times, and booked by, which is actually something I didn't have to declare myself, if you remember the experience. When I select here a time slot, actually it was, because here, yeah, it's if an app is public facing and you don't need to log in to actually do a booking, but you could also make this app gated, meaning that if you are not logged in, you wouldn't access all these functionalities, and it would automatically pass the user email as here the user that's booking that room. So we would have this fill this data and connect to a user's table, etc.
Yeah.
There it is.
Sorry, I knew the stick wasn't going to last long enough. I'll close the door.
I mean, we'll probably go through that later as well, but you can in Softr create those user groups, tell that, for example, that these users are, actually I have implemented it here. So we have admins, we have clients, and then create some data restrictions telling that, for example, for our for the bookings table, the clients can only see the bookings for which the booked by is actually them as a logged in user. So that's an app-wide security layer, meaning that you don't have to add those filters at the block level for every single block. If you miss setting that up for one block, it will not really matter, because this is being enforced at the app level.
This is huge, by the way. I feel like this isn't even stressed enough. And I think one of the problems also is we have so many incredible things within this platform that sometimes, it's hard to kind of just like, it's very feature rich. But I think in terms of security and in terms of just something that we provide that you can also just see and understand, as Guillaume said already, another thing that often comes with like typical vibe coding tools is just really not being able to see and understand, and therefore, once again, have the mental security of knowing how your app is working and who has access to what, or who can, do certain actions. And I think these things that are just kind of baked in to Softr are really critical to being able to ensure that, you have an actual business ready application. So yeah, that was a good call out.
And the way here, what makes it very powerful, but also reliable, is we are prompting to build one block because we need one specific capacity at this very place of my app, which is in that room detail page right below, showing some information about this room. We need this room booking system. So it's very local, very targeted, and you can be very specific about the way like connecting your data and explaining to the AI in the chat and the way you want it to look and to behave, etc. So there is way less risk for the AI to get something wrong, because it's actually not creating, when you're using, for example, Cloud Code and you ask for an app, it will start by creating dozens of files that you probably won't understand unless you have a technical profile, but it would still take a lot of time reading through all of them because it has to set up everything. And here, the setup, the infrastructure comes with the Softr platform. So the data part, the users, workflows, the page system, etc. And it's whenever you need something extra custom that you go for a Vibe-Coding block. And that's why right here, I just used our item detail block where I could simply, say that, okay, we show that first. We enable here an action to maybe open a page, etc. Change a bit the style to make it look different. For that, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. It doesn't have to be custom coded again, because this is a bulletproof block that we have made available. But this one is actually quite specific. And as Softr, we cannot guess what exact booking system you need. So we actually make it available to you as a Vibe-Coding block.
Yeah, and I'll also add, like our blocks are, I think many of our blocks are also, very like flexible and I think good as is. Like you don't really have to do anything else. I mean, at the same time, of course, if you're also like me, sometimes you just enjoy being able to, create some variations or do, do your own thing, which works. And I think also one nice thing about, I think the Vibe code block as well, which maybe you already touched upon, is because it's isolated and, I go in, I will edit the source code as well, just because I'm also sometimes even working with Cloud Code on the side, just to kind of, experiment in a way that's safe, I guess. So I'm going in, I'm kind of working with the code, but I'm also, so there are times I can bypass a lot of the prompting and just go directly there and kind of learn as I'm building as well. I think one other nice thing too is that if I have an entire app that's not really an app, it's just full of all of my Vibe coded components that I've created, and I kind of just collect them all together. And then when I want to put them into another app, I don't recreate the wheel, I just copy it to that application. And I think that's also kind of nice, is that if you have one that you might want to use in other apps, you're not going to have to Vibe code it all over again. You can share it and move it, which is really helpful. So.
Yeah, and it's so quite easy too. So the Vibe coding block is actually coding, and it uses a common language that's quite powerful for building apps, which is React. And you can actually go through the versions yourself to even know what we did in the different versions. Now I just ran another prompt to actually ask to make some things editable. So we'll see. It's actually more than I thought. That's really cool. So that's another aspect of our Vibe coding block. Incredible. It is indeed coding almost from scratch, but still using libraries to make sure also it uses your theme. As you can eventually notice here, we have an orange accent color, and it automatically adapted to it. And very probably if I change that to blue, the rendering of that block will actually follow my accent color. So that is already pretty integrated and powerful. But we have also recently enabled the Vibe coding block to, it will do that automatically, but you can even go further by asking specifically for it, and that's what I just did, to provide editable, what we call settings, which become, let's say, variables that you can edit yourself manually in this no-code way that you have been used to if you've been using Softr for a while. So here, what can be editable will not be, for example, the room name, because that's my data that's in my database. But for example, this title, Book Your Room, I could just find time.
I also want to be tagged in after this because I have some cool things that I did with this past weekend that I'm.
Absolutely. And basically every static text here became something that we can modify ourselves. For example, the email placeholder, we can change it, and it will all be happening and modifying that block without having to reprompt the AI, because it is taking time to ask for to wait for the AI to actually update your block. So you can still do it, but whenever you want these little fixes or uploading a different image, it's not the case of this block because we don't have an image, but you can actually control a lot of the things related to this block with this no-code settings.
Yeah.
I have a quick. You want to
say one thing on this one as well is that when we unlocked this, I actually had no idea. So I was like, and I mean, we ship constantly. So I think like, and I'm very heavily involved in seeing everything that's happening on the product side. But I think maybe just to kind of even say we should ship so fast that it's like, it's actually a good thing, because sometimes I get the surprise and it's just amazing. It's like amazing to kind of stumble onto something you didn't know was happening, or just kind of, and so when this actually was released, I discovered it just by accident because I was building with something. And when I saw it, I just like, that was magic for me. I could not believe that like this was there. And I actually had to like double, I was like, is this like, what's going on? How is this possible now? And it's just really, I mean, let me,
so you were not aware at all of those settings would be live, or that it would look like that?
Once again, we ship so fast that sometimes I'm like, I know something's coming, but I'm not, you know, I'm in 10 million places. I'm not thinking about what it's going to look like or what it's going to be. But the surprise joy that comes from seeing these things unexpected is amazing. Like
on my end, I knew I saw the prototypes, but when I saw it live on my personal app and I saw how deep it was going. So for example, I had a repeating section, like it was these hero sections, and I had 3 of them. And then somehow I could directly drag and drop to reorder my 3 sections. And there was a plus button to add a 4th one that directly comes with all the different settings that I could set. So for example, the image, etc. And I didn't expect it to go that far. So it was also
it's also I think like a testament to Softr that Guillaume already has seen the prototype. He already knows where there's just so many different things happening at once, so many different, like the database is a standalone product, workflows is a standalone product, then you have the apps and you have the Vibe-Code block, and even across all of those different products, we are just shipping constantly. So it's just really, our team is just, I think, like incredible. I can't say that enough. Just honestly amazing.
Shout out to
every single
team.
Yeah, they're wonderful. Maybe I'll just share mine really quick, just because I and then I'll jump back in. But I think this is just a fun one. Just because we're talking about, I should probably just move that out. Give me a second. Okay. So I think, so this past weekend, my sister called me up and asked me to build something for her, like an applicant tracking system. And I got distracted, of course, because I thought, I want to make this like, you know, a little bit more pretty at the top and just add something over here. She's also someone that generally likes nice designs and so on. And so I was experimenting. I was going into some kind of, I forget what the name of the AI tool was, but looking for some backgrounds. And one thing I was thinking about was, how do I create this, not like this feature grid block, but more of like this just kind of banner block that isn't necessarily like the static block, but something I can create. But I want to add that really nice gradient fade that you can get that effect on Figma. But you know, obviously until today, we're not prioritizing all of these fancy design things. And this is just more so something I wanted to do on my own, just for fun. And
are there any editable settings here as well?
So that's the fun part. So I think if we go into what this looked like when I generated the block at first. So automatically what was generated for me was, you know, you can edit the welcome text, you can edit the subtitle. I should add one thing, that the reason you're seeing this stat is because originally I took a block from, so how I get my ideas. I go across different like ShadCN libraries, like different open source libraries and so on. And I kind of take a look at those components. I get inspired by looking at other software or, just, I don't know, a lot of designers, websites like Layers, all of these different places. And I just think like, what are some things that I can look at for ideas and then come up with something on my own? And so this actually came originally from like a leadership banner card. And so when I was generating it, it automatically added this piece, which is like I could update the stats on that leadership card like automatically. That's because the data wasn't connected yet to it. I wasn't connecting it to a database because that's not what I was trying to build. But just once again, really incredible that it just kind of automatically just generates this on the get-go. You can see and something that's very cool. But I think what was even more amazing was, okay, in order to get this gradient right on the bottom of this block, there's a little bit of like tweaking that I have to do. And part of that is like getting the actual, fade color on top correct and getting the placement right. I wanted to move the title in so that it wasn't going to necessarily be at the wrong parts of the actual card. And I was able to actually just create all of these as content controls, which honestly is just amazing. And what it really meant for me was, and where I started was I first went into the source code, and I was just doing this literally just like updating the source code on my own. And then I thought, why am I doing this? Like, can I just
and we had a question about can another LLM write the code and we implement it? It's actually possible. If you go in the code, you can edit it, manually, or if you prefer, copy and paste it into, Cloud ChatGPT to ask for edits. Or if you had already a code, like a React code that works, you can do that. Or maybe give the code to the AI and say to adapt it to its own principles. If you want to connect to the database, it's totally possible.
Yeah, I will say that I definitely use Claude Code with me, and the reason for that is like, one, in general, whenever I am like working with code, of course I use like Claude Code for help, but I generally like to understand what's actually happening and what I'm changing. So for me, I'm not the kind of person I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying I'm not the kind of person to just copy and paste code, because once again, it also shows how I feel about vibe coding as well. For me, not understanding is always going to be something that affects me in one of two ways. Like, one way is that it can be faster to certain aspects, but I'm never going to feel like, I'm not going to know what's going to happen. Will something break if I do something somewhere else? So I generally like to understand where the changes are happening and so on. But also because it's a learning experience. And that's actually one of the things that I think is great about AI tools, is that it is like an assistant that can kind of help you understand and you learn from it each time. And so in this case, I did use Claude Code for help, but I went into the source code to also understand what were the things that it was changing, like what does that actually look like in the code? And then one thing I will add here is that when you go back and you're prompting the vibe coding block, the more specific you can be, once again, you can just go directly into the code, then you don't have to prompt. I mean, that's kind of like the whole point, is like, I guess, then why not even go into the code and edit it yourself? Or why not just reveal it as a content control? And I think that's kind of the flexibility as well that Softr gives you, is then there are multiple ways to achieve a desired goal. And I think when we think about like, saving costs on prompting, or like how we want to just conserve and use the vibe coding block, the prompt for like the most important pieces, this honestly was a shortcut that helped me get most of the way there. And with this, I was able just to like, in real time, just like adjust these numbers and just watch it just change and change and change until I got it to where I wanted it to be. Really fun, really addicting. And once again, more on the design level than the back-end functionality. And I play with all of them, but I thought this one was just so cool. And yeah, just to see these content panels actually appear in like real time and know that it's not just like, I'm actually being able to control how I can customize that. It was amazing.
So maybe the takeaway is whenever there is you're iterating on one of these vibe coding blocks, and there is something that you will want to iterate a lot on, for example, a title, subtitle, or the URL of a button, etc. You can, if the AI didn't do it by default, you can just ask, hey, make this an editable setting, and it can go as granular as you're showing. You're probably playing with the limits. That's great to see.
Yeah, it's super fun. Okay,
I have one.
Yeah, go back.
I have one. Let me have another. So as we're discussing, we're discussing this business cases for apps. I had released a couple months ago this AI CRM app that actually didn't use the vibe-coding block in the first place, because you can do a lot, and I maybe just go through a couple pages of this AI CRM. When we talk about business apps, again, most of your components don't need to be reinvented, and that's the reason why relying on a no-code infrastructure is very powerful. If you need a Kanban view, this sort of Trello view to manage your deals and make them progress from one stage to the other, we do have a native Kanban block to do so. Displays some information about the deal, or these were actually tasks. Here, quick links, all of that. Here, a mini form to add a new task. I didn't need to use any custom components, and the app is actually quite powerful without any. Now, one that I've added was here this import CSV feature, which is quite a custom to my use case, because I wanted to, and I don't know if I have but we have some content explaining exactly how to get there. So we'll be sharing the resource, so you can find it on our YouTube. It's called bulk CSV upload. But yeah, I started with a no-code app and then enriched it with a couple of more advanced features. And the one I've actually added lately is the following one. You might notice here that this shouldn't be, I mean, it's not an existing block in Softr here, CRM agent. So let's give it a try. I can ask, what are the deals that are the most likely to close, and who are the deal owners? Let's see if we get a response. Basically, what is behind? So beautiful. What's interesting about the vibe-coding block is that it doesn't have to be a block in the pure sense of being a component that is a square in your interface. Actually, it's right here. I mean, in my studio, I added it in between these two components, but I just asked for this chat bubble that would be at the bottom right of my screen, which is sticky, and then when I click on it, I see a model in the center with a text input and capacity to send a message and to listen to a response. So one thing here, the block doesn't have to be what we usually call a block. You can even, I tried, you can also build a navbar. I mean, we don't recommend to build your navbar because we have a no-code component for that. But you could have, maybe a little floating icon if you have a knowledge base AI assistant or something like that.
Can you show that again in the studio, Guillaume?
Yeah, absolutely. It is right here.
Oh, wow. That is cool, because I did not know that was possible. That is really cool.
Yeah. So
I guess I never thought about it. That's very creative.
Yeah, and because it's creating code, the code, it's either where the section is, but when you add the script for, I don't know, the intercom widget on your website or something like that, it has the right code and styling to actually be always at the bottom right of your device display.
Wow.
So it can do that. It can do that as well. And that was, so the visual part of that relies on what we just explained. And then there is another component to that, is how can it answer based on the app's data? Because if we look at, I don't know, here a deal with Microsoft owned by Laura, if I go in here, it will probably be in negotiation, because I just asked about something that's about to close, and we indeed have that data in our app. So how come can it answer based on my app's data? I have actually combined that with a Softr workflow. I have created a new workflow, and we can probably find it here. Yep.
Nice.
I made it very very simple, just for the sake of the demo and testing. Basically, wait, that's actually another workflow. Sorry, my bad. This was actually something a bit similar, but that's triggered from the interface with a no-code button, and this one. Now the question is, how did I call it? So, now is the tricky part. Vendor portal. Do we sort them by? I need to find that workflow.
Welcome to my life.
But I can also just explain how it works. So basically, I created a webhook-based workflow, and we could also just see how it would look. So you create a workflow that starts with a webhook. A webhook is when we talk about API, it's actually that. I created this mini API, and you can also, I have to mention it here, add some security layers to make sure only your domain here can call this API, but there are other ways to secure it. And basically, we receive here a URL that is almost like a phone number, and we'll have, I think, in 2 weeks a live with Romain, who is really like with whom we'll go quite deep into the workflows, but starting also by explaining how, like, all these principles. But so we'll be adding that event to our Luma calendar in the next days. Basically, quickly about webhooks, it's a mini API, so it creates this sort of phone number that's actually a URL, but you can then give this URL to another service that would be able to call it and to pass some information. So as if you call someone called that and say, hey, this is the question we have, and that's when I wrote my question right here. So I basically told the Vibe-Coding block to have this text input, and whenever we hit send message, it would send my prompt, my question, to the workflow. So we would receive it in the payload here, and I mean we would need to test it, and I'll just try to find it in the meantime. But based on because we received the question at the trigger level here, I can then, what I did is in Softr databases, I found multiple records, and I basically, I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember how I set up, but I searched all the deals, and then I basically gave that question. Oh, I know why. It's because I opened it. No. Anyways, I think it's here. Yeah, that's maybe why I couldn't find the workflow. But I basically gave the question and the data about our deals to an AI step in a workflow. It was returning the response, and then I responded to the webhook. So it's a new feature we've actually shipped this week, respond to webhook. So that's why my here it was listening to the response of that webhook to then display the key response that we sent back, and that's how it was able to display the response. So this is a very first implementation of that, and it could actually go across multiple objects. But this is I would say an example of how you could build on top of that to create very custom workflows for your apps.
That's very cool. Yeah, I haven't played with the webhook yet. I'm very excited for that. When was that released? Just a couple of days ago?
Yeah, like probably on Wednesday, or I probably now have it. Agentic CRM. Okay, I was in the wrong workspace, but we are finding the deals where it's right here. We are sorry about that. just need to reload. We're feeding that all to, we're giving the message and the deal data. Of course, you could clean up that data to remove what's not useful to the AI, to reduce also the token use, etc. But this was just for the testing purpose, and you respond with the result, which is what the block is actually listening to, that response. And we have that interface working. We can ask something else. What are the top deals we have in the pipeline? We could ask, any insights, for example, why did we lose deals in the past 2 months? And it would be able to. All right, seems we have a pretty good pipeline, actually. These are good logos.
Nice.
And I have some others. Let me see what we have here.
Check them out.
I have a quick one that I showcased last time. When you want a search bar here, you have to do an exact match to find things. So this is a list of courses. It's in French, but you have a lot of business courses. So if I actually type web dev in this search bar, it's actually the same principle that happens, but it's an AI search that finds the top 3 courses to then recommend, and we listen to the response, which will here, even though nothing, maybe if I search web dev, none of them have web dev in the description or title, but still these are the most relevant courses based on what I input here. Or if I type business communication, we would have things related to the pitch, communication, etc. Even though, it's not an exact match, because in the background I implemented an AI recommendation engine working with webhooks, and this is quite powerful. I have 2 more examples here that just played around as we released the feature. Right here, we can write a bit of a prompt for an email we want to be sending. And we can imagine that in many cases, for example, in the case of our CRM, we could have an AI that helps you write the next email to send to your prospect that you have opened in a record detail page, based on all the logs of the communications you've had, etc. So it could be working this way. Let's just say, hey, Archer, can we meet tomorrow at 1? And I hit generate email, and it should be generating 2 keys this time, an email subject and a body that respects here Guillaume, Softr, etc. So here I didn't have to write too much, and then I would just hit send email. The way we do that, same principle, but this time the AI actually generates 2 things, and I didn't create 2 AIs, but I asked the AI to respond with the structured outputs, and we have a good article about that I can recommend.
That's very cool.
There you go. You can check out this article that explains exactly this technique that allows you to output structured outputs to then have one AI actually generate multiple things that you can use and map to your workflows. So definitely check out this resource if you're interested in having an AI that outputs something like that. The last one we have, the grammar fix. This one is pretty cool. Maybe we can get a text, write a mini text with 5 grammar mistakes. So here I created an interface. It was just to test how can we, when we're writing something, maybe in a marketing app, have a mini AI that helps you locally do one thing. So here it was fixing the grammar. So if I just put this text, I hit fix grammar, and we are sending this text, again, having AI look at it, and outputting a structured response with first the new text without the mistakes, but also the list in a structured way of all the mistakes that got improved, and you can hover them to see 8 fixes applied. So this is a combination of vibe-coded block, because this is something very specific, and I I basically had to prompt, the way it has to display what we receive as a webhook response. And maybe we can take a look at the way I prompted that in the first place. Okay. So I said, okay, I need a long text input where I can write whatever I want. Then when I hit fix grammar, it sends it to this post webhook, listen for the response that contains the text key, which is the text to replace. So that was my V1. And then I was like, oh, it would actually be cool to also display all the mistakes that were corrected. And yeah, I say actually we'll have in response another object that is fixes in a structured format, etc. And that's it, 2 prompts, and I had my interface that worked. And then I had to build the workflow. It's probably here. Grammar check. We received the text in the webhook. So for example, like this.
Mm-hmm.
We give it to an AI. Sorry, we'll just probably have to fix something here. Yeah. Fix the grammar and spelling and explain the fixes. And I just put the raw text. But then I also passed this structured schema that basically tells, and if we look at here, the AI will output the clean text plus for all the fixes, one key with the title of the fix and the explanation for each of the fixes. So here there were 4 of them. They can be 8. It will be managed in the same way. And then I respond with both the text and the fixes. And my Vibe-Coding block is aware that it has to listen to that format as a response to the webhook, so it knows how to display it. And that's how here we have our text and here all the fixes. And the Vibe-Coding block did a very good job at formatting that. I didn't have to even think about the interface, how it will look like. It all came up with all of those. Yeah,
nice.
Very cool.
That's very, very cool.
Should we build something live?
Yeah. What about? I was just gonna say we had a few requests in the community.
Yeah.
Is that right?
There was questions about the best practices to prompt. I remember seeing a lot of questions about handling, barcode scanners, maybe from the phone. You need to scan some products, get information, or fill a form about them. I think this one is super useful for these companies that are managing those products. Yeah. There was some about the charts. I don't know if we'll cover charts here. Maybe we'll find a way.
What about charts? What was the question about charts in particular?
I think it was very specific about how to ensure the spacing around the charts is working well. And there was another one that was interesting about charts, is how to make them interactive. So when you click, you see the underlying data maybe in a model. So maybe we build something related to the barcodes and then add the charts to show data about these products. We can maybe have a mini app that tracks different products that we have, and then when we scan them, we would be able to edit the information about the product or something like this.
Let's do it.
Should I
go for it?
Should I go for it? What did we have? All right, that was the test. Cool. Yeah, that was all right.
While you go for it, I'm going to check to see if I already have something with the charts, which I probably do, but I'm not sure if I have exactly what that question is about.
Okay, I'll go for it. I'll create a new app. So from scratch, you could use the templates. We probably have a few templates that are using products, but right now I'll start with a Softr database. And we arrive here with a few blocks, a few pages already created. Utility pages, very useful. So you don't have to bytecode your login page, which doesn't make sense for a business app where it needs to be just working and reliable. You don't need to bytecode the password resets. All these things, they come out of the box, but you can focus on what matters for your business. So in our case, let's create a new database. So it will be barcode scanner app. Oops. We'll have, I don't think we even need users for that app. We'll just rely on the simple user system here. Can just get started maybe with database of products. So we'll be storing different products that we have with a name, maybe the last maintenance, date. And so yes, the barcodes, I guess we'll have a sort of a unique ID for each product, and then we'll have a file where we store the
Oh, Guillaume, you're still showing the wrong screen. You're showing the
yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, I was checking for the metric for the charts, and I didn't even notice. There we go.
So yeah, you missed a few things, but I'm basically now I created a new app from scratch, and I mean the data part, we always start with the data because then we can build on top of it. And I've added in our new database a products table where we'll have the name, last maintenance date, a unique ID, and the barcode of that product. For now, I mean, we can just stick to that, and I want to confirm that the Vibe-Coding block can enable us to create those barcodes actually. So when we'll have a form to add a new product, and we'll see if it's capable of generating that barcode, and then we'll create another component that's able to scan them. I guess that's a good way to get started. So I'll just add here in AI, that's where we find our Vibe-Coding block. Now connect it to our data source products. This will be a form, so I'll just prompt that, and I personally prefer to use these tools like Whisperflow where you can talk and it transcribes, because using the Vibe-Coding block, the more details, as like Shiran, you said it earlier, the more precise you are, the better the result will be. So you can have a bit more control over the things that will be created. So I'll go like this. Okay, I need a form to create new products, and I will be giving a product name, and there will be a product ID that's automatically generated. And whenever we create that product, it will also store a barcode in the file field that we have in our database. I think we can start as simple as that.
So we already have the data. So we have the data.
So I created a file attachment type of field. So I hope that it stores it as an image.
We'll see.
I don't know if it's usually a PDF image, but it will be, I think, an image that could then be printed and like added to the product itself, or it can also be digitally. And then another part of the app will be about scanning those to find the data about that product and editing some data, or we would have a form or something to maybe log a new maintenance request, something like that can be quite useful. And Harald, if you have any, if you have encountered any challenges, any business needs, etc., related to barcodes, please share them with us. Barcode files. All right. For the barcode, you will actually be generating it as an image and storing it to the database. So as the user, we just write the product name for now. You can also remove the last maintenance date, and maybe you can show a preview of the automatically generated unique ID. Because as a user, you're not creating, like, you don't have to create the barcode yourself. It will be automatically generated and contain that unique ID. maybe I should have mentioned that the barcode is related to the unique ID. We'll see how it does. Okay, let's give it a try. I'll just preview the app. For now, we're just confirming a bit the functionality. Interesting. They actually it implemented a sort of rule, maybe based on what we're tapping or something like that, to generate that ID. And I hit create product. It has been created. Now I'll confirm in the database, and we do have a value here, prod 17, etc., which happens to be the unique ID. So it got what I had in mind.
Very nice.
That is really cool. And now I wonder if we can even use the same block to have the scanner as well. So you would have two options. One is create a new product, and one is scan a product. Let's give it a try. You could also create these two features separately. If you remember how we had tabs with one feature per tab, you could be using these tab containers. Right here, let's just give it a try like this. And can you ask it to make a 2D barcode? What would be a 2D? I'm not deep into that industry. What would it? How different would it be from that? In the meantime, let's ask for that extra feature. Okay, so actually before that, we would need to have the choice between two features. One would be to create a product, which is what we just built here. And the other one would be to search a product. So we would, when we select that, have use the camera of the device to scan barcodes. And when we find one, you will use the unique ID to match with the database records and show the related information to that product, but also enable to manually set the date of the last maintenance and to save it, which will update the record. And when QR code, yeah, I guess it would also enable to do that. I never tried myself, but if it can generate a barcode, I'm pretty confident. It also can generate PDFs. I tried last time. It worked pretty well. You could add line items, download the PDF, and it was branded, etc., which is quite convenient.
It is very cool.
And by the way, if you have heavy needs of PDF generation, maybe the best way is not to have the block itself generate the PDF, but generate it via a workflow. We have a connection with Docs Automator. That is a dedicated service where you could have, your templates of PDFs and then map the different variables. So that way you could really scale with those branded PDFs, etc. And I wouldn't rely on the front end itself to work on that, but that's where I would use a workflow that maybe stores it in the database. So you can always play around the three components of an app.
Harold mentioned membership cards and bonus points as well, which yes, is a very good use case for that also.
It's actually, in the end, it all relies on that record ID, which is, I'll just take a picture with my phone of that barcode so we can give it a try.
I'm very excited about this one.
and by the way, here we generated a unique ID, but we also have a native unique record ID with that native kind of field in Softr databases, because each row, so what we call a row is a line of our database, has a unique identifier. Because here, if I have another machine XYZ, how do we know which is which? And that's why natively we rely on the record ID. And if you connect to other data sources, Softr has native data sources, but you can also connect to external sources like Supabase, Google Sheets, Notion, etc. They usually also rely on that record ID. If you actually want them to look in a certain way, etc., you could either let the Vibe-Coding block know and all the creation will go through that, or use a formula field. So definitely have a lot of options. I'll just go back in here and let's give it a try. When creating that feature, I was then thinking that it's actually a bit risky to ask one block to do 7 different things. Here it's 2. It's fine. I think it will work out. But if you have things that are very different, then just use different blocks to make sure each is specialized. So we still have our feature that still works. Important to test if the previous thing that used to work still works. And now our second feature is the following one. Let's see what we have. So it asked for my camera, but I'm also using my camera for this show. So maybe that is the reason why.
Your phone?
I can try to, let's see. Well, let me just remove my camera for now to see if it unlocks it. Or I can just give it another try. For the search a product, when it uses my camera, it seems to not work. So maybe find a way to ensure that it properly uses my device's camera, whether it's a phone or a laptop. If I remember well, I actually once managed to have a barcode scanner. I was not generating those barcodes, but I just used the generic one, and it actually worked to use my camera. So let's give it a try. Otherwise, I can also try to go through my phone and yeah. All right. Says camera in use. I don't know how it works for a device to use the camera twice at the same time. I could actually make it accessible to anyone and just try to open that with the phone.
By the way, I think I have the filters. We're also working on the charts as well, so we can take a look at that afterwards.
Excellent, yeah. Let me try to open that on my phone. So, starting the camera. It's also not pulling my camera, so it might be something to fix at the block level. I don't know what could be asked here. Maybe we can ask it as a new block again, like related to this recommendation. So we can be asking again. Okay, I need a block that enables me to. Okay, I need a block that enables me to scan a barcode. So it would use the camera of my device to scan those products, and you would then search the related product because the barcode would contain the unique ID that we also store in the database. So when I scan a specific product, you allow me to see the details of that product and manually edit the last maintenance date to save that so it updates the record.
Whisper Flow is amazing.
Yeah, I think here we didn't get to the point where the camera was being activated in the right way. So QR code, barcode, it wouldn't change the situation. Now I'm pretty confident we'll get there. I had it once. We'll see. In the meantime, maybe for the charts. So you had something related to charts.
Yes, although the spacing thing I'm trying to figure out. But actually, let me just share my screen.
Yeah. Well, I'm all right. It seems like we have something. Let me pull the image again. All right. So it's not the best setup, but let's see if a picture like this would work. No.
Is it able to pick up on it? I don't even know.
I didn't get it. Maybe I need the actual picture, or let me try once more. I don't know how perfect it has to be. No.
I think Jafir, hopefully I'm not messing up the name, I think he made a good point that actually QR code is generally supposed to be pretty good for cameras. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's necessarily
that could be, yeah.
That might be something to just try. This is the fun, honestly, is just testing and seeing. So
for sure. I can add a screenshot. I have a proof. Let me. All right. This.
Okay.
This was one. So yeah. So definitely would need a couple iterations, but probably a QR code would work better. Maybe barcodes are more with these laser machines that actually read them. And I actually remember trying to scan this one was a bit complicated.
They're finicky. So. That's why I also thought they're very finicky. So.
And the good news is that Softr makes it easy to build apps. So it's usually not the IT team that will maybe build something for you in a year or two, but actually the team itself that needs that app to be built, that could work on that app, and they probably know better than myself about barcodes. So we're safe. Do you want to share what you had for charts?
Try it. It's pretty simple, but let's try it. See my screen? Yeah?
We have it.
You see?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think just right off the bat, I actually did create, so this is a page that I created for like an agency like CRM. So this metric card I also created with the Vibe-Coding block, but this is just something that I built myself. By the way, in terms of how I did it, so I'm just going to call back to the same thing I mentioned earlier. I will usually browse for inspiration online, kind of pick at what I like, and then try to create something like that, and then maybe just duplicate it and edit from there. But this is without the actual, filters. This is just like the metric card. And so what I kind of did here was just separate them, and just to explain why I did that. So at the moment, there's no way, I mean, it's a little bit more complex to bring data from multiple tables into just one view. So for instance, if I know that I want to pull metrics on top of, without necessarily having to use like complex formulas or anything, if I want to pull metrics into my dashboard, I do them as separate cards at the moment. But to the question that was asked around, kind of being able to filter, having something where, you can filter across and all of this, I just made it very simple. So right now in this CRM, I have all of these deals listed here. So not that much dummy data, but enough. And then I just created, exactly what I wanted the metrics to be to highlight for a stakeholder. And I asked the Vibe-Code block directly that I want to be able to filter on the specific month. And then eventually I added that I want to be able to filter on the specific quarter. So I'm just going to go into the preview screen.
Yeah, that's super useful. It's something that is not yet available with the no-code blocks of Softr to have filters that act on multiple charts. So for now, this is the way to do it.
One thing that I probably would edit. Oh no, there it goes. Before it was just refreshing the entire page, which wasn't happening to me previously. But anyway, yes, so I'll have to fix that. But I think overall what you can see is that this filter is working. And then I also added another separate filter for just overall Q1 and to be able to see across this. So I haven't set this up for these cards below because actually it added these cards without me necessarily asking for them. All I cared about was the metrics, and just to kind of specify again. So being really specific, if you're not planning to go into the code block, edit directly, or create your own controls, being very specific with the prompting is really important because, for instance, it generated an entire dashboard for me beyond what I originally wanted. And then because I was asking specifically around being able to filter on metrics, this isn't applying to these specific cards. It's only applying to the metric cards above. Now, to answer the question around like the general spacing. So you can see right now, I'm not particularly happy between like the space between these two filters. We tried to make it so that the block will always correspond to like what is the general spacing and setup on the page. So typically it should work. But in case it doesn't, and I haven't gotten that far here, but it probably, the way I did it previously with the block that I showed earlier is that I can do one of two things. I can either try to get closer to the exact prompt that I need. And this is kind of like one of the big issues that everyone has with vibe coding as well, is that then I have to keep reprompting to kind of just like move some placements, which is why what I would probably do is just add, that spacing. Now, something isn't working completely right here because if I'm, I noticed that it wasn't moving it. So this actually needs a little bit of troubleshooting, and probably what I would end up doing is going in and just looking into the code directly. But that's one thing that I would do. The other is, as I mentioned, just once I know exactly, like I zeroed in on exactly where in the actual source code itself is going to update or like allow me to tweak that, that's when I would actually surface that as a content control. And then that allows me to basically just go in and edit it in real time. So I think that is, and at the moment, I don't know exactly where that's going to be. So let's see.
Yeah, and I would say there's something we also forgot to mention is that you can provide an image as an input, and it does quite a good job at reusing as an inspiration this image.
Maybe that's what I should mention for this as well. That's actually a really good call out. You can see in my first prompt, I said, can you create a metric card like this? And that was because I had actually attached a specific image of something that I liked. It's not always perfect. Actually, sometimes I go back and not perfect, meaning like, it's also going to depend on like the image itself and like also the quality of the image. I find that like, the better screenshot usually works, but if there's like also, I would put it this way, this is fine because this is very clear and there's a very clear color. If you're starting to get into more complex screenshots with like multiple colors or there's like other, it can be a little bit distorted. The block will still work pretty well, but I have often found like I either switch a little bit back and forth between Claude Code if I want something very precise, but I think for the most part it works really, really well here. And I think sometimes as well, we, like I mentioned earlier, we'll go to not just the screenshot, but we'll go to an actual open source library and just look for a block that I really want to model it off of. And then oftentimes they just let you copy directly from that library and put it into, put it directly into the prompt. But often this is the way, in my opinion, this is like one of the best ways to go because the component is actually also already like fully loaded with the functionality. So with metric card, I think it's like a little bit, doesn't matter as much, but once you start to get into like other types of blocks that you want to use, if you want to be a bit more opinionated about what block to go for, going into those libraries means you're often also going to get a lot of that functionality, like those interactions already kind of set up there. And I've also found that asking the vibe code block directly, like referencing a specific component oftentimes like that'll also just kind of bring in something very similar that works just as well also. So
that's a good example. I like those charts and the functionality. Should we have and if there is any question, any further thing you would like to see or to confirm, we can take some more input. But otherwise, I have maybe one block that is probably the most advanced block that I could generate so far, that we can quickly take a look at. This one. This solved one of the biggest challenges I've ever seen. As a marketing team, you have this CMS of these databases of content, for example, your whole blog, and Softr publishes a lot of articles. But then comes the challenge of we have actually new updates. For example, we were talking about the databases we connected to, but didn't talk about Softr databases that we now released. So how do you go through your entire content that you have posted over the past years to actually make it up to date to reflect your company? And as a marketing team, this is a big one, because you have a couple options. Either you have your team split the articles, everyone takes 50 of them, and you have to go through manually into Webflow that is a bit buggy, etc. And AI is actually quite capable at implementing, if you describe what's new in your product, it can go in your article and suggest what could be improved. But you definitely want to have yourself a look at it, to have your expertise, confirm the changes, etc. So that's why I created this interface that relies on, maybe in my database, I have mainly two text fields. One stores the current version and one stores the new version. And it's a text field that has Markdown or HTML. That's the rich text that contains these hyperlinks, or even those images, so those link alt text, etc. So the whole article. And I have AI work on the current version to suggest a new version. And I then needed something very visual for our team as well, to go in and compare this side-by-side improvements that were suggested. And this, we call it a diff view. It shows the differences with green and red. Is really useful to have them side by side. And this is something very custom that I could actually, it took a couple iterations, but build with the Vibe-Coding block. So we have, for example, here, it improved, for example, here the mention of Softr databases, native workflows, etc.
Yeah, this is
and
really
what I've also added is a feature to, for example, for that, I can just click here and explain. So I select that block of text of content, and here I can even write instructions to, I don't know what we could I don't know, I can say use a sentence case for the first part of bullet points, something like this. My laptop is a bit slow, and I launched the AI edits, which again, this webhook principle sends that block plus my edits and listens to the response. And I don't see the improved version. I don't know where it maybe this one didn't go through. We would have maybe if I reload, it should reload by itself, but I don't know which article I was on.
You were on the sort limit. There it is. Yeah.
All right, I don't think they were implemented. I can maybe do another shot. I also have implemented here this voice capture. So make this a bit shorter so it's more concise. Here again, I send the audio and receive the transcript. Let's see, it will work. All right.
Amazing.
We can not only review to then say, okay, this one is approved, but we can also act on it. And what I've also enabled is that you can select not only one, but maybe this one too. Then we will send a review to these 2 blocks or even 4 of them. So we really locally edit this text. So I think this was a cool one because it shows how one team that has a very specific issue can iterate on a tool that they will use to save a lot of hours.
Hundreds of hours.
It would be complex to kind of pitch that to our IT team, and they would do maybe a first version, but then we would have to say, hey, actually, we would need to, implement this manual AI edit or something like this, and then we would go back and forth, and it would take months. Here, it took me maybe an afternoon to nail that, and now we have our content team going in and being this expert human in the loop, really going through these articles to make sure our narrative, our new product updates are properly integrated into our old articles that were released a couple years ago.
I also want to add one more piece to this that I think is also really important, which is just generally when you're a small marketing team, which we are, it's really important that we're able to punch above our weight, because if we can't, it's very difficult. You can't always compete in other areas. We try to be able to move as fast as possible. And I think when there's multiple channels that you can go after, multiple things that you can be testing, we don't have time to sit and be on a sales demo for hours to get for one platform that we then have to pay for. And then just even find out if this is something we need right now. Maybe this is just an experiment of the week or the experiment, before we decide if we want to continue or scale those efforts. And being able to build these tools on the fly, test to see if things are working, and then to continuously iterate on them. Once again, even for the content portal I showed last week, I built that in an hour and a half, used it just for, hiring writers, passed it over to my content team, and they're continuously iterating on it. And that I think is also the big thing here is we're able to we have the flexibility and agility to just move incredibly fast. And the tools that we're working with are more about what we need in that moment versus us having to think about either purchasing or, for the long run for a process or for a channel we don't even know if we're going to stick with. So
yeah, and it's also very efficient, even pricing wise. There is no limit to the amount of apps that you can create. So if you get a plan for 100 people, if you are a 60 people team, you cannot just build one app for these 60 people, but you can build 7 of them. You will have your holiday tracker. We have actually, it's more our finance director created this app where we can log our holidays, see who will be off when, etc. Then we have maybe one to request new purchases or expenses. Then you'll have one for your marketing team to handle their, writers, their content, their review of a specific type of content. Another team maybe the sales team will create, that's something I would like to create live in the coming weeks, deal rooms, these digital sales rooms where you can invite your prospects to a space where you can share resources, and have them, be aware of your brands, share a checklist, etc. These tools cost, they start at $400 a month for that one use case, and it's actually something you could quite easily build and customize with Softr. So each team really gets their own use cases, and you build these apps for these same users or for your clients, your external stakeholders, your investors.
Yeah.
And it's quite powerful.
Yeah, I see a lot of people building out a lot of their own artifacts using, with Claude Code especially. I see a lot of that stuff oftentimes when I'm looking online, it's very good for personal productivity or being able to move faster. Obviously, these are things you can also give your team to an extent, but when I compare it to what's possible with Softr, it's not just a doc, or it's not just even sometimes I'm seeing people generating presentations with PowerPoint, and that's cool. That's not gonna lie, that's cool. But with Softr, for instance, I'm past the deck. Like, I'm building the actual app, I'm making it interactive, and I'm making it possible for people to actually get the information that's relevant for them. And oftentimes that just ties into it. So I think like what is just possible is so, like, you know, what you can do here, the power of what you can do. It can be for personal productivity. It can be for, you know, your entire team, your entire company. And the speed at which we build these, it's just, you know, the ideas are limitless. But I think the one thing, as a team, as like a leader, and as someone who has, you know, budget for tooling and has seen how tech stacks can get insanely out of control, and the spending for tech stacks can get insanely out of control. I mean, even in our case, like, would we rather pay for like something like Appify, where it's much cheaper just to pay to, you know, leverage those APIs versus, you know, purchasing a platform where the credit consumption is like mind-blowingly high. I mean, we just build these things on our own. And honestly, every time I see a tool, and this has happened quite often actually in the past year, where I have, you know, with the Geo, the new, you know, SEO for AI and LLM space, the number of people that have popped into my DMs who are like, I built this incredible tool, do you want me to pitch it to you? And I think I sat on maybe 1 or 2 calls, and I was like, I honestly could build this myself with Softr, so why would I pay for this, you know? And that's really, and I would be able to do it faster and for only the actual features that I would need to test in that moment. So I think it's incredible.
And maybe to get back to the initial needs, before even considering this vibe coding aspect where you would go beyond what's possible in your organization, look at the spreadsheets that the team is being, you know, is working on, is using, is sharing, and identify the ones where there is pain, there is friction. For example, there are more than 3 people collaborating on a spreadsheet. It's probably a sign this could be an app where, as a logged in user, you see what's assigned to you, or what you have to approve, etc., where you have a clean interface to manage this data. So it really starts here: form, table, a little chart, and slowly you will then notice that there are actually bigger use cases that you could tackle. Deal rooms, etc. These are more than spreadsheets. You wouldn't share just a spreadsheet with your prospect, or I hope so. But then you will slowly understand the potential of what you could build, and that's where you will eventually need more custom components, or, as we saw with the meeting booking app, sometimes it also helps to simplify your database, to have this workaround from the interface. And that's now very much possible into Softr. So yeah, I can only encourage you to give it a try. Think about your own team, your own needs first. Think about these few spreadsheets you can kill, and then also discuss with your colleagues to identify. I don't know if you need if you have already for each team a champion that can maybe collect all the digital needs, the areas where you lose time, or every time you do something twice, you input something in one software and then in another software. Could mean that there might be a workflow that can integrate both, or a single source of truth database interface.
And just to add on to that, you don't need to build an app to be in Softr. Just start with database. That's, like, I think Guillaume just said it perfectly. Like, I hate spreadsheets in general. I don't use them at all. And I think anytime that I need to store data, even if I don't need an app yet, even if I'm not even thinking in terms of if I'll ever need an app, I'm immediately storing it in Softr databases, because I can already do more with that data than I can like in a spreadsheet. It's and the speed of which I can then iterate and grow that on top of it once I am ready, it's just better. So I think you really said that well. That's a good place to start, is the spreadsheets you currently have, and just go from there.
And we saw that when building this mini app that we wanted to try out with the barcodes, we started with the database. And I think we'll also plan a dedicated session to really deep dive into databases, but start very simple and understand the differences between a spreadsheet and a database that's actually connecting the tables together. And once you understand and nail that and adapt it to your, or use it for your own work, you really become unstoppable, and being able to add a layer of interface on top of that and user management permission is really powerful, and definitely at reach. If you if you know how to handle a spreadsheet with these thousands of buttons, you'll actually be very happy to be working on a no-code platform where things are simplified and yet so powerful.
Yeah. Cool. Do we have any questions?
There was one maybe about sharing the prompt of the app I showed. I can tell you about the principles that the main things that I've asked. I, of course, as I said, prepared my database to have in 2 different columns, the old text, new text. I connected the Vibe-Coding block to that database, and I explained, hey, you'll find in that database, and the block is, by the way, able to read a bit your schema of your database, so you don't have to write exactly the name of each field, but you say, okay, you'll find in the database one field with the old text, one with the new text. I would like to see them side by side and to have this diff view that we usually see on code editors. I probably said something like that, where either at the block level, the whole block is red or green if it changed, or in my case, I wanted it at the word level, so it's easier to identify, but you can really ask for the level of granularity you want. I had to iterate once or twice to really have it nail this diff view, because it has to implement some kind of formula and codes to identify. It's actually not that easy to identify what has changed from one text to another when there is a whole new paragraph and then it's again the same content. So I had to share a few examples and say, okay, when there was this word and this word, it didn't work perfectly, and after 2 or 3 iterations, it nailed it. And that was my baseline, was just comparing both. And on top of that, I was like, actually, I would need manual edits. I don't want to have a pure manual edit because the data was coming from Webflow and it has a lot of tags and formatting, etc. So it was an extra layer of complexity I had to handle. But if it's simple markdown, you can say, okay, on the right, I actually want it to be editable or have an icon when I click it. I enter the edit mode and then I can save it. And I want this to, of course, save that data in the data source in that new text column. So that's how I would go about it if you had to recreate something like that and adapt it to your need.
Great. Anything else?
I like the comment. You could build $1 billion application for sure. It's especially empowering your business to become $1 billion business. There are always these questions about, can you build a SaaS with Softr? It is actually not the purpose of Softr. It's really dedicated to these business apps, internal tools, external portals, where you use these apps to increase to make things possible within your company, to increase the productivity, collaborate, etc.
But
yeah.
I would add one thing, which is there are millions of small businesses around the world across all different industries. And I think if you nail a tool that is really useful and you kind of figure out that problem or you figure out that niche, I mean, there is, we've seen with N8N, for instance, a lot of people selling their automations. I mean, think about it, like an automation that a person can't really understand or see, or like I'm not saying there isn't a place for it. There's a huge market for it, obviously, but there's also a huge market for tools. And I think like being able to understand and become, either, automation building agency, being able to kind of go in, solve those operational problems with tools, that's a gold mine, in my opinion. So I would say that's $1 billion industry.
It is for sure. And once you nail something for you, it means that probably another similar team has that same issue in another company. I had, for example, a very good marketing, AI marketing system to generate content, etc., that I had built in the past, and I could sell to other companies a couple of years ago that were also having the same issues. So there is a big opportunity either to build to sell your pre-built tools, but also just to go and talk to the companies and help them implement those, because not all company wants to directly deep dive into implementing those tools, but they prefer, and we have actually a pool of certified software partners that companies can hire to either build for them or more be consultants and help them build their different formats. They're like companies do need still to go digital. And it's not only startups that are digital AI native. I still talk to a lot of companies that are tech AI startups that internally still don't automate anything. And they was just chatting with a sales ops from quite a big, maybe a unicorn or not, that's having an AI product, and internally the sales ops team thought they maybe had an automation tool, and that was their maturity level when it comes to going digital. So from there, you can imagine that all these SMBs, amongst them, many still are, working with spreadsheets, working with even paper, etc., and would really benefit from the productivity gains. Also the work experience that you get when you have to duplicate your work into multiple tools. There is a lot to be done. I think digitalization barely started in some cases, and this is why a platform like Softr that abstracts what needs to be abstracted, doesn't recode and reinvent the wheel whenever you need a search bar or a filter or a table. You can just use the blocks that you need that match your business. Whenever there is no native block that works, you describe it and you get it with a pretty good accuracy and connection to your data source, and the theme will already match your app's theme, etc.
Yeah, quote me on this today, but I really think the future of the creator economy as well is not going to be vibe coding, nice quick projects or even SaaS, because I just think to get it scalable to the level you need, you're going to end up, maybe one day, but I think you're going to still need an engineer. But I think this is the market that's going to blow up because one, I've seen it work firsthand. And I always think in the back of my mind that if I were not to be at Softr, I'd probably go into building these. I would be like one of the first to try and go and do that, because I think there's so much potential there. But yeah, I think the speed now, especially with AI, the speed of which we let you, be able to do these things, you can just focus on the problems of those businesses and solving those problems for them. I think there's just so many of these tools left and right that would make immense value for them. So
yeah, and we see Softr, the Softr apps being developed, actually going live and being used, and this is it is a proven platform to build apps, and that's the reason why over 1 million builders are now using Softr, and more and more companies are adopting from all sizes. So it's exciting also to be here and be able to share some tips, good practices, product news, building live, and taking the use cases that you have. So I think that was a useful session.
Awesome. I guess we can wrap it up then if there's no additional questions. But thanks everyone for joining. This was fun and longer than our normal ones, but I feel like we covered a lot in a good way. So I think it's great.
Thank you so much, all, and it was a pleasure to co-build with you, Shiran.
Yeah, likewise.